Praise the Lord, everyone. We're the Jenkins family. I'm Jeremy Jenkins. This is my lovely wife, TRACY Jenkins. We've been asked to help out with this year's 2020 marriage conference. We know it's been a rough year with folks with COVID, and we're hoping we can still bless someone with this marriage retreat.
As my husband said, I'm TRACY Jenkins. We are members of the True Way Church in Nashville, Tennessee, with Bishop Davenport and Mother Davenport. We are blessed and honored to have been asked by Mother Davenport to share our testimony, and we pray that our story helps someone through a difficult time that they may be having. We have been members, I have been a member of the True Way Church since 2005.
And I've been there since 1996, if I'm not mistaken.
Since he was a baby. So we are just blessed to have this opportunity. We're not preachers, we're not teachers, we're just a married couple that has been through a difficult time and has made it through that time in that difficult season, and would like to share our story so that we may help bless another couple through a time and let you know that there is hope, and don't give up. You can still make it too. So we have been married since 2003, so that's 17 years. We have two beautiful girls, Amiah, who's 16, almost 17, and Alexis, who just turned 9. We want to thank Bishop and Mother D just for all their help through the years, and just being so inspirational to us and offering us this opportunity and putting trust in us, not knowing what we would say. And we just pray that this just helps at least one couple. So our topic was given us by Mother D after she was in prayer, and the Lord spoke to her about a topic called Forsaking All Others. I'm sure that you all have seen this next slide. It is actually the wedding vows. So I'll just read them just from the slide. So, TRACY, do you take Jeremy to be your wedded husband, to live together in marriage? Do you promise to love him, comfort him, honor him, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, and forsaking all others? Be faithful only to him, so long as you both shall live.
I do.
That was for me. Most of all, these vows, for most of us, we have said those vows, and they are true. And, in Matthew 19:5, it says that the husband, the man will leave his father and mother, and they will be united. He will be united with his wife, and the two will become one flesh. Now, when we first get married, it's the newlywed phase, and it's easy, and you just can't see any wrong going in your marriage, and you're just consumed with each other. You love each other so much. You want to just always spend time with the other person, to the point to where it's like you're suffocating each other. But you love it, and you just can't see beyond that point of love in the beginning, which is why I think that you have to love someone so much like that, because you never know what is facing you going forward. Like, you just never know what your trials will be. So, what happens when something does go wrong? It's easy to remember that time you love each other so much, but what happens when that trust is broken, or what happens when the finances aren't great, or your spouse gets sick? These are all the vows we just repeated when we were so in love, but what happens when one of those things comes into play? Entanglement. So that's the word of 2020. Like this lion in this picture, he's creeping onto a prey. He's creeping like an entanglement. And that's the new deceptive word of 2020. So I just had to use that word, entanglement, because we've all heard that this year. You can call it what you want to, but I call it a trick of the devil. It's an entanglement, but it's a trick, is what it is. On this scripture here, 1 Peter 5:8, I'll let you read that, babe.
See, that one says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour.
So anyone can become a prey to a trick of entanglement. This can be a social media entanglement. It can be emotional. It can be physical. It can even be a spending habit on Amazon, ordering too many packages, spending too much money, and putting your family in a bind to where, you know, you've ordered 40 packs of toilet paper during COVID, and your husband is like, why are you spending so much money? Or your wife is saying, why are you ordering so much toilet paper? Why are you spending so much money? Till it becomes a problem where you're putting the family in a bind. So you can be entangled in a lot of webs of different things. You can even be DMing people. I just heard about whatever DMing means in Facebook, sending people private messages, you know, and that's just something that you would know and your spouse wouldn't know. So just being deceptive, just so many tricks of the adversary. So you have to just be careful to what you fall prey to, because it's just easy to slide into that habit and just fall prey. So
also to add to that, part of an entanglement, I guess you could say what she was saying, a spending habit. What about shoes? I know a lot of us fellows and young ladies love shoes. I know I love them, and I hid a lot of shoes from my wife until she found out about it. So that's something else you can think about. Can be a problem if you don't, you know, put it out there and you know that you have an issue.
So all marriages have tests and trials, and for us it was the trial of infidelity. So in 2008, we had been married for about 5 years at that point. Our marriage was put through the ultimate test. And I'll let Bay start with his story, not the testimony, but his story.
All right, so like she said, we've been married young age, 19. I was 19. I think she was 22.
Cradle robber.
At the time. So everything was good, happy-go-lucky. We were on straight and narrow. Everything was great. But then around 2008, actually it was 2006, my father had passed away. So I was going through a depression stage, which I didn't think I was depressed. I didn't know what I was dealing with actually at the time. But I felt like I was in an entrapment with myself and what I wanted to do with my life. I thought about myself at the time. So myself, you know, I was like, well, you know, I know I have a family, but yeah, I wasn't thinking like that. You know, I was thinking about pleasing myself, whether it was what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go, whatever I wanted to do. I was like, you know, I'm grown. You know, I'm a grown man, you know, and nobody going to stop me from that.
Except for that he had a whole wife and a whole 3-year-old at home. But
yeah. So
that's what he felt. So, I mean, and one thing you'll see through this is that we just want to be transparent. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but we just want to be transparent with our story in hopes that it ministers to you, because we've already been there and done that. And, you know, we want to share and be honest with you the things that we felt during that time and how we ended up at this point to even be in this seat to give you our testimony.
So, I said my father had just passed, and I was dealing with it. I was working out at the time at Nissan. I know y'all might be familiar with those vehicles. But I was working there, and, you know, being a young age, making, you know, over $50,000 a year, I had a hot head. You know, I was like, I'm the man, you know. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do as far as my life. When my father passed, all that went out the window. You know, I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know who to turn to with it. And I just felt like I couldn't talk to my wife about it at all. And then so what I started doing was like slacking off at work. I got demoted. You know, I went through a depression stage. I got demoted at work. They actually put me on one of the worst jobs they had out there. So I wanted to quit. I was going through those situations. And then still dealing with my father passing and stuff. So I started looking for answers to other people. My wife had stepped up, and she was, you know, I was backing off of work, so she started picking up extra shifts and working 2 jobs. So she was doing that part. But at the time, you know, what I needed, I guess my love language was, I found out later on in life that we have different love languages too. So we'll talk about that a little later. But I needed love and affection. That was my love language, what I found out. And my wife was never around because she was working. She was taking care of what she thought was I wanted her to do, or what she felt that was right at the time to step up and fill those shoes, which a good spouse would. Someone you want to have your back and stuff. But at the time, that ain't what I was looking for. So I ended up stepping out of the marriage. It was a one night stand type of thing, but we had started texting. It starts with the little things, just texting. So texting, and one thing led to another. You might see a few pictures, and then you start wondering. Then they start listening to what you have to say, and then next thing you know, you actually have infidelity. So that does happen, and what's weird, I guess you would say, or she prays a lot. I would say the next day I was caught. Busted. The very next day. Everything isn't dark does come to the light. So that did happen. After that happened, we tried to make things work, and I was still dealing with things, and I still felt like, she couldn't tell me what to do. All that, and she was like, we needed marriage counseling. I didn't want to go to no marriage counselor. I'm grown, what I need someone else telling me what to do. That's how I felt about things. But we did end up trying to do some marriage counseling and stuff, and it just wasn't what I wanted to do at the time. So I was still lost and didn't know what I wanted to do. But she said I couldn't do it there, so I ended up leaving the house. She asked me,
say it like that?
Yeah, you told me you had to go. So I ended up leaving the house. Went to stay with a buddy of mine, and I thought everything was great. We were kicking it and having a good time, and the next thing you know, I ended up getting me my own place, and we've been separated for about, 5-6 months, and I'm like, I'm liking this thing, this single thing. I thought it was pretty cool. Not paying attention, in my job that I quit Nissan, I started a new job. I was doing this job, and I'm making half of the money, and I was like, man, I ain't got no bills, I ain't got to take care of that family. I just thought about myself, and little did I know I was struggling taking care of myself. So that was wild. When you're having to, I worked on a food truck, and I was scraping together food off of my truck just to eat. I knew I had rent to pay, and I knew I had a daughter, so whatever I had her, she would let me get my daughter at the time. And so, I had to provide for her. So it's been plenty of times either we going to Wendy's or you going to eat off Daddy's food truck. So that's what we did for a while. I do remember our first Christmas by myself. I was over at my apartment, and it just made me realize that I wanted to be with my family. So right after Christmas, I got back with my wife and called her. It was around New Year's, actually. Actually, it was New Year's Day. New Year's Day, I told her I wanted to come home and be with her, and I thought she was going to be, okay, come on home. And
I was going to be excited.
She told me it's too late. I was like, what do you mean it's too late? And she told me she had someone, which I'm sure, in my mind, yeah, she has someone. But she didn't, thank God. But it drove me crazy for the next 5 hours. I'm crazy, Hopefully, fellas, you ain't never got to deal with that crazy. When you think your woman out there doing something, it drives you crazy. So actually, New Year's 2009, I went to jail. And
why'd you go to jail?
Because I told her I was gonna kill her. I was gonna I threatened her. I sent her a text, but you can go to jail for texting.
That's your FYI and tip. Don't be texting crazy stuff because they will lock you up over that text.
But So yeah, I went to jail over that. Got out on the 2nd. Spent my first night in jail ever. That was some scary stuff.
On New Year's.
On New Year's. And I said some wild stuff in there, but y'all don't want to go do that. But back to the testimony. I got out, went on my happy way. I remember talking to the district attorney because Valentine's was coming up. And I remember asking her, because I still wanted her. I said,
but I wasn't interested at this point.
I said, you think I could send her some roses for Valentine's Day? And the district attorney said, yeah, you can send some roses. I'm going to give you a day in jail for each rose. She didn't get no roses. So, we stayed apart probably until, I'm going to say March. And then she started letting me come over and hang out and help out in the yard, rake the leaves and stuff like that.
Outside.
Yeah, I didn't get to come inside. It was a progress. We just had to keep going and start over. And I just kept showing her and reassuring her that I wanted to be back home. And it took a while for me to actually come back home. I'm going to say that was, April, May?
It was probably a whole year total.
Yeah,
by the time
whole year.
I actually had, before he went to jail, had gone to see a lawyer and paid a retainer fee to file for a divorce. So I actually had the paperwork. That was kind of what started the ball rolling, I think, to get him so upset to go to jail on New Year's, because I was like, we need to meet and have lunch. He thought we were going to have an exciting date. But really it was just to talk about a parenting plan. So, which, in hindsight, I know that can be fueling to the fire, but I didn't care. I'm like, I'm ready to move on. Like, I can't mull over what he's done. He's moved out on his own. He's hanging out every night, having people over that I know is not, good company for my daughter to be around. So, I'm just like, I've just got to, stand up tall and figure out how to move on. Like, it was devastating, but at the same time, I knew that I could fend for us and take care of us if that's what I had to do. But what I wasn't going to do was allow him to, creep over to my house, which I was his wife. So what difference would it make? But still, at the same time, he needed to know that line was in the sand. Like, you crossed the line, you've got to either straighten up or continue to stay where you are and us go our separate ways. It just was not going to be the type of life that I was willing to lead. So that New Year's Eve was kind of that after the fact of me saying I filed for a divorce, and there's just nothing you can do about it, really. Like, I've moved on. I just told him all of that because for me, I needed that off of my chest, like, just to push him away. Like, I've moved on. I found somebody else. It wasn't nobody else. Nobody but me and Jesus. But I just didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want him to keep trying. I didn't want to keep feeling that feeling of, tug of war. Like, should I stay? Should I go? I just wanted it to be done. I just wanted it to be over with. But that wasn't God's will for our life. I remember one time distinctively, my best friend was with me, and we went to exchange our oldest daughter to Jeremy. She said, "This is so sad. I just never thought that this would be where you all would be." And I said, "Well, if you think it's sad, for sure I think it's sad. Like, but this is just the way it has to be. Like, I had to have somebody with me because it was always him just going, come on, we can go to eat. We can do." No, because you're not. I could tell, this was my husband. I could tell that he wasn't where he needed to be to really make this marriage work. So like he said, I was outside raking leaves, and he came up and he's like, "Can I help you rake leaves?" And for that day, for whatever reason, I just remember very distinctively feeling like he was a different person. I could just tell something had broke inside of him, that he had changed, that he wasn't that same person that had moved out almost a year prior to that. And, I let him stay and rake leaves, and then I had made dinner, of course, because I love to cook, so I let him come in and have dinner, and then I made him leave, because I'm like, I really need to think about, is this what I want to do? because at the end of the day, no matter how happy and peaceful that day was, I knew what we had ahead to deal with as far as moving forward with his infidelity and then my insecurities. Because you go through, you know, was it her look? Was she skinnier than me? Was she prettier than me? Was her hair? Like, as a woman, I think we internalize the comparison of her to me, when really there's not a comparison. It's just what that person is looking for at that time. And, you know, it takes a long time to get to that point, but that's just the way I was feeling at the time. You have anything else to add?
You know, to finish up. So, yeah, all that happened. So we ended up getting back together, like she said, about a year later. And we didn't get back together, like get back together. She pretty much let me move back in.
We shared the same space.
Yes.
I guess is the way we should say it. We didn't share a whole lot of anything else, but we shared the same space.
I told her it was cheaper for me to help with one mortgage versus paying the rent and a mortgage. And she agreed. So, but it took, I had to reassure her that this is what I wanted and stuff. And so she kept saying, you know, it might not work. You know, and I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this and stuff. And I told her that I wanted to try, at least try, you know.
I told him that every day because I didn't want him to feel like he was led on, like, this is going to work. Because I knew I had those divorce papers ready because I just wasn't sure what day I would wake up and say, enough is enough. I just can't go on feeling this way anymore.
So what I did was, like I said, you know, I'm an affectionate person and stuff, but I made sure I gave her space. So she needed time to think about things and get her mind right, no matter what it was. You know, she needed time to pray. And that's what I did, too. I did a lot of praying, and I put myself back around positive people. I can't think a lot of the deacons and stuff from church a lot. Those are some good brothers there. So shout out to the True Way Church Brotherhood. But I did that. I took myself away from all my friends that were out running the streets and wanting the club and everything like that. And I surrounded myself, like I said, with positive people. And that was probably the best medicine. That and talking to my pastor, I continued to do counseling with him by myself. She didn't tell me to go do it. I just said, I'm going to do it just, well, you know, to better me. I had to better myself. Then I could better my family. So that's what I did. We still, like I said, it was a whole year, I must say, before we even thought about being together as, you know, married husband and wife couples.
Entangled.
Yeah, so a whole year, fellas. That's a long time. That's like jail all over again. But, you know, on that release day on that 11/29, you were excited about getting out of there. And I was excited to see the outcome. You know, I wanted to make sure that, you know, this is what I wanted. And I prayed to God about it. And I talked to my pastor a lot about it. And I just kept on reassuring him and reassuring her and reassuring everyone this is what I wanted. And that's what we did, man. And eventually she started taking that big wall down and arguing with me all the time for I ain't gonna say no reason, because she had a reason to argue, but you know, every little thing would be like a little blow up, and I'm like, Lord, you know, I would pray about it.
It was a lot of arguing. It wasn't a whole lot of praying for me during that time. He said I needed time to pray. I needed to be prayed over. If it wasn't for people who was praying for me during that time, there's no telling where I would be, because I was just so mad. It was like a volatile, crazy person. Like I would be happy one minute, crying the next minute, and yelling and screaming and fussing and everything else beyond that the next minute, just mad, you know, just blaming the whole world. And you know, we got to a point to, it's like, you know, okay, am I willing to continue this way that I have become because of his actions for the rest of my life, or am I going to figure out how to choose to really truly move forward and forgive him and stop trying to constantly say, like, literally at that point, I don't know how he stood me. I know he brought us to this point, but I don't know how he managed to deal with me. And he always said, I knew that I brought us there and that I deserved all of those things that you were saying back and forth to me. He was, I remember very distinctly, he would say, I'm sorry. And I would always say, I know you are. It was every day. Oh, I'm sorry I did that. I know you are. I know you're sorry. It just was constant. It was really like abuse on the opposite end, but I felt like he deserved whatever I was throwing out, and nobody was going to tell me that he didn't deserve all of that.
I'm a big fella. I can take it.
So we went into, the game, the blame game, like whose fault is it? Well, you start to throw stones like, well, you weren't there for me when I needed you to love on me, and I was at work. So I'm like, what do you mean I'm not there for you? And then I would say, well, you weren't paying me any attention either, even though I'm not the one that needs that much affection. You texting somebody else. So it always would like slick side go over to, well, you were always texting that other person, or you are always messaging somebody else instead of talking to me, or you're always consumed on the phone. He would always say, well, why are you always laughing on the phone when you're talking to your mama? I'm like, because she makes me happy and you don't. I just was that.
She still talking to her mama like that.
And I still laugh when I talk to my mama. Hi, Mom. I'm very thankful that my mother's still amongst the land of the living. And yes, she does make me very happy. And she's always encouraging me, never saying anything negative. Just a saint. I'm still working on it. But it just was like a tally mark game. Like if you're playing hangman or tic-tac-toe, like, well, you did this, check, so I'm going to do this, check. So you talk to this person, check, so I'm going to text my ex just because I can, It just became a vicious cycle of who was going to do what next. So after much prayer and tears, we just decided we were going to stay together and figure out, number one, how we got to this point of him having an affair and me sleeping on the left side of the bed so far that I could fall out on the floor. And two, how is it that we're going to move past this? Because it's a miserable way of living. Like nobody is happy. The kids are upset. Our child was upset. She was passing out. Like there was no known reason for why our 5-year-old was passing out. Like I was combing her hair and she collapsed on the floor and stopped breathing. I was devastated. I just knew God could not and would not take her from me while we were going through all of that. And when I took her to her pediatrician, well, the doctor there at the ER said that it was hair grooming syncope, which I had never heard of, but it is a thing. And she has lots of hair, so it is a thing. But her pediatrician said, this is stress. Is there stress in the home? And we both looked at each other like, not really, doctor. No more than usual. Yeah, it was a lot of stress in the home, and we just never dreamed that the stress that we were going through, a child would be dealing with in a different way, and that she would just be collapsing to the point of she's not breathing. It was surreal for me. I'm a nurse and I'm looking at my child like frantically, what do I do? What do I do? This cannot be happening. It was a miserable time for everyone. I personally will never take ownership of his infidelity and the things that he did and the choices that he made. But neither one of us were happy. Like during that time frame, we were both upset, both just young and newly married, not knowing what to do. We just wanted to get back to that point of where we started from and trying to figure out how we got there, and I'm stubborn and he's stubborn, and I wasn't going to let him off the hook that easy. I wasn't going to own any of what he did, and I felt like it was my right to be angry. Like, you're not going to tell me I'm not going to be angry. I'm angry, and you're not going, all of this every day. We would do this all the way to church, sit on the pew mad, wishing you would hold my hand when they say hold each other's hand, because I'm like,
I used to grab her too. Like,
I'm like, don't you hold my hand. I can get mad thinking right now, like, don't you hold my hand. But that's just miserable. How are you at church sitting on a pew miserable with the person that you're supposed to love more than anybody in that whole place? So we had to figure out how we got there. And that brings us to, how do you mend or fix a broken relationship. And Jeremy had a lot of guilt. He would be upset once I kind of moved forward a little bit. He would be guilty, just feeling ashamed of what he did and hurt. And me too, when Bishop was preaching on infidelity and how he'll never cheat on his wife, and he would never do that, I would just be sitting there like, but he did, just angry about it, just bitter. Bitter is the best word. It's just bitter about everything. And I used to be ashamed, like when I just, the fact that we're able to talk about this and help someone else is just truly a blessing, because people go through all types of things. And this is the testimony that God gave us. The actual part of infidelity is not where our testimony lies. It's the fact of forgiveness, because I'm just not that person. Like I am now, but at the time, you can do something to me when I was 10 years old and I will remember it from the time I was 10, the exact date, the time, what we were wearing, what you said, and I'm still mad about it every time I talk about it. But God has really healed me from that point of just being upset and ashamed of the testimony he gave us. I mean, we could continue on with why did you choose us to have this, but why not? I mean, what if he chose something different? I might not like that either, but it is what it is, and you have to own it, and you have to either figure out, one, start over and move on and get husband number two and be a blended family, which I'm not knocking, some people do, or two, figure out how to make it work, as tough as it is and as hard as that mountain is to climb, and figure out how to move on. So you just have to keep fighting for your marriage. And how do you mend a broken relationship? I mean, this relationship was clearly broken. How did we get to this point of even sitting here next to each other and even halfway smiling at each other while we're doing this? First, you pray without ceasing. You just have to stay in prayer all the time. You just have to ask God, all the things that you want to know, like the things that you want him to be softened to. And really, you have to focus on praying for yourself. Like, I didn't have the energy to pray for my husband during that time. Like, I was angry, and I refused to pray for him. I'm glad that other people were praying for him, and I didn't want any harm to come to him, but I just wasn't focused on him, because I felt like for me, I needed my own healing, whether that meant us staying together or whether that meant us getting a divorce, because at that time I really wasn't sure which one it would be. But what I did know is, even if I did move forward, I didn't want to take this baggage of our marriage that we have been in for this amount of time to somebody else, and then thinking the next person is cheating and the next person's doing this, that, or the other.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And, the second thing about mending a broken relationship is seeking wise counsel. I am so blessed to have wonderful parents to help guide me through this time, and I would even say Jeremy's the loving type person that's closer to my family, seems like, than I am, and still is to this day. And I'm like, I don't want to tell you anything, because I don't want you saying anything to him when I say something to you. And they're like, we're on your team. Like, he's chosen his path, and I'm here to support you however you are. My parents never once told me to leave my husband. They never told me to be angry. Just calling to check on me to see how I was doing, and are you making, how is Amiah? Is she doing okay? Just that listening ear. I mean, and I know their ears got tired of hearing whatever I had to say. But, just being there to support us. And, they never put in their 2 cents on what they thought I should be doing, and if I should stay or if I should go. And secondly, it's just more important than most things is just having a godly, wise counsel. We're just so blessed with our church home that our pastor and first lady are Christian counselors, certified Christian counselors. And, just that they were willing to give their time. Like, we spent so many hours in there Lots of hours. There's no telling how much prayer Bishop had to be in before he ever started our session. Phone calls. Just, I mean, I don't even know how they deal with it. And we're just one couple out of 2 churches. So I just can't even imagine the amount of heaviness that he must have had, and Mother D too, just of carrying the weight of a couple's marriage falling apart, especially seeing how much they love the marriage ministry and how much it means to them. So thank you to both of you for just listening, and spending countless hours away from each other to help our marriage, to help save our marriage. And just being patient for him missing dinner, because our counseling session was supposed to be 30 minutes, but for the last 30 minutes I've been yelling and fussing across the table, and I don't want to hear what anybody has to say because they're going to tell me what to do, blah blah blah. So,
and we rode down there together.
Yes, that was a miserable ride home. Miserable. I either said nothing or I yelled all the way. It was that couple that you look over at the next car and they're like, nah, 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 nah. That was me. So thank God we're not still there. So you just have to find people who have your best interest at heart. You can't listen to everybody. You just must have godly counsel to help you through a difficult time, because everybody is not out there to help your relationship. A lot of people, I'm not going to say they love to see you fail, but it just gives them something else to talk about. It's just another gossip session, but you're not going to get to talk about this one, because the Lord has healed our marriage, and I'm just praying it continues that way. We're not perfect people. We struggle every day with different things, because we're human beings. Besides of being married, we're just 2 different people from 2 different backgrounds, and we don't think the same. We don't agree on the same things. But you have to find that fine line of how you make it through those difficult times.
Right.
You have to just, put all of your cares into God. God can do anything but fail. You have to put all of your trust in Him. We as humans can think He can do this. There's no way anybody could have told me our marriage was going to work, because I just couldn't see it. But that wasn't what God had to say for our final story. So it just was one chapter in our book of our life and our marriage together. And you just have to, as 1 Peter 5:7 says, cast all of your cares upon Him, for He careth for you. Proverbs 2:1-6, my son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding. Indeed, if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, and if you look for it as silver and search for it as a hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, from His mouth comes knowledge and understanding. You give all your marital issues over to God and you just leave them there. Like it says, cast them on to Him. So once you give it to Him, you can't go back and pick it up. You just have to leave it there and pray that God mends your broken heart and that He heals it. It might have stitches in it where it's been healed and put back together, but
nurse.
But it's together. And this next slide about the stony heart is truly my testimony. Ezekiel 36:26. I will remove the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. God truly rebuilt and renewed my renewed my love for my husband. And if I ever had doubt about God's power and what He can do in our journey, and just in my life in particular, minus what His wrong was in the marriage, nothing is too big for God, because I am not that person. I mean, I just wished you all could have known me before. Actually, I don't, because I'd probably be embarrassed to know you now. But just how angry, that I was, and the fact that I can sit here and talk and smile, not that our testimony is funny or that there's anything to laugh about, but that we made it through, and that God is greater than any challenge. So the lonely season of forgiveness, that was a difficult time. This is the toughest season that you'll go through. Just, having to say it's too hard, let's just forget it, let's throw in the towel, I don't want to keep going. You want a divorce, you want out. It's just too hard. And when it feels like it's getting harder and that it can't get any better, that's when God is making that change in your life and repairing that marriage. So when it gets difficult, you hold on, because the devil knows that he's almost got you, and so he's going to fight harder to try to take your marriage. But almost doesn't count. So he almost took our marriage, but he didn't. So almost doesn't count. So the part of working out your marriage is finding out what each other needs. And for me, this picture of the gas pump, like for me, my love language is acts of service. So, reading the 5 love languages and speaking to Bishop and Lady D about the acts of the love languages really saved our marriage, because my husband thought that like fairy tale romance stuff on TV is what a girl needs, but not this girl. Like every girl doesn't need that. I'm not that like lovey, touchy. Like I've had to learn to blend my love language to try to meet his needs, because being married is selfless, not selfish. So that's what he needs, and so that's what I have to do. That's his love language. If we're sitting here, he's probably dying to hold my hand right now while we're sitting here recording. He is dying for that touch. Whereas for me, I'm like, you wash the dishes. Woo, that's hot. Thanks for getting my gas pumped. Ain't nothing like you pumping my gas. You got the oil change. Oh my goodness. Nothing better than that. And for him, he's like, that's stupid. Like, why would that be important to you? Because it is. It doesn't matter to you why it's important to me, because I'm me and that's what I need. And he needs affection.
I helped her cook tonight.
That was hot too. You just have to not give up. You just never know, you have to find out the necessary things to help make your marriage work. And like his needs gives him life. It's like the air that he breathes is a need. His need is for that love and affection and touch, and my need is for acts of service. And it might not be natural to you, it might not be easy to you, but it's what the other person needs. So that's what you have to try to do to blend your marriage and make it work. I told him when we got back together, the reason that you went out and stepped out with somebody else is because she was fun. She wasn't doing your laundry. She wasn't rearing your kids. She wasn't, but she's getting nice dinner, on this one night stand. I mean, I can do that for a one night stand, for you, so take me out and date me and court me. And, prior to the pandemic, we made it our business for at least once a week to have a date night. Even if it's here, we've had private chefs here to have, and it's a little pricey, but what's the cost of your marriage? Like, you throw away money at the gas station, convenience store, buying soda for $2, whereas I can tell you how you can go get a 6-pack for $2.50 at Kroger, instead of buying that soda. But it's all about choice. You just have to make that effort to have a date.
You have to date. I mean,
it's imperative.
That's a big one for us. We still make time, whether we're just sitting out back talking, walking, whatever it is. It don't have to cost any money. You can make your little picnic in the back of your truck bed, whatever. But, do a date with your woman, because if you don't, somebody else will.
That's right.
You don't want that.
That's right.
So
it's easy to say, it's too hard. The road that's less traveled, unfortunately, in society is the road of staying married. You have to have faith of a mustard seed, and, you have to let the past be in the past. It's a choice to move forward. It's a hard choice, but you're not going to forget. You're going to remember it, like we're talking about it right now. But it doesn't come up in our everyday life. Like that has no power in my life. I don't give it any life. I've moved past that. I have no reason to think that that's what he's doing now because of his actions. The same way that I thought that he was stepping out there and he was, it's the same action that I feel from him to let me know that he's not. And I'm just so blessed that, God allowed us to stay together and make this marriage work, because I would have missed out on an awesome husband. He was in there all along. Look at him grinning. He needs that hat. He was in there all along, but, we just had to find ourselves and find each other and we wouldn't have been able to share all the happy times, and we wouldn't have our 9-year-old because we had her after our other child was 7, after we got together and, tried to make things work and thought it was a good decision. So, we're just blessed to have moved forward. You have to stop looking in the rearview mirror. If you've been through a trial in your marriage, when you're driving a car, you're not looking in the rearview mirror because you look forward to drive. You only glance in the mirror, if something triggers you to look back or you're changing lanes. It's the same thing in your marriage. If you've had a difficult time, you can't keep carrying that forward and think that your marriage will go forward and progress. You have to figure out how to move past it and let it die. You have to figure out how, if it comes, something triggers that sense of thought of infidelity or, whatever the emotional abuse was that your spouse yelled at you today, you have to let him know that that's what has triggered it and, talk it through and move on. You just have to keep moving forward.
She's spot on.
So forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been different. If you hang on to the past, you can never heal. Like, you can never move forward and be better in your situations in your marriage. You have to say that this situation is what it is. My husband had an affair and he cheated, however you want to call it, an entanglement, creeping, whatever you want to call it. He did it. It's over. It's done. I'm not going to try to get even so that we can end up in that same pit to try to figure out how to get out of. It's over. Like, to truly move past it is to just let it go, like the song Frozen, let it go. You just have to
let it go.
You just have to accept it and choose to move forward. God gives us new mercies every day. It's the same thing we have to do with our spouse. You have to give them new mercies. It's just easy to hang on to those little things that are little small fights, and then they blow up into big fights to where you don't even really know what you're mad at each other about. When I say we don't fight, we don't. I don't give that power. I just don't have the energy. Like, my energy is all gone from that time that we did have that fight. I'm just like, okay, we can agree to disagree. I just can't do it. It's just not in my spirit anymore. I can't do it.
It's so much easier just to travel with one another, have fun.
It is. It's easy to have a good time together instead of fighting. The scripture in Lamentations 3:23 says, they are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. God truly is faithful. He is the God of new mercies every day. And you just have to hang on to that and know that these hard times won't last always. You might be going through, you may have lost a job during COVID and now you all are struggling. And that may be your battle. And if it is, just keep fighting. Like, don't give up on your marriage. Because if my marriage can work through what we went through, anybody's marriage can work. It's just, I just want to say, just stay encouraged. Keep loving each other. Keep fighting for your marriage, because it is a daily challenge to fight for your marriage. You just have to remember how much you loved each other in the beginning. At year 15, we got married again. We had a wedding in the backyard that my husband planned. It was so sweet. I'm not a crier, but I did cry a whole lot when I found out about it, and he was shocked. But it was just so thoughtful and just such a refreshing, renewing second chapter to our marriage, if you will. Just at year 15, like just a fresh start of newfound love, I guess, just the new us, just tossing out the old and starting with the new, just moving forward.
She thought we were having a birthday party for me.
Yeah.
But I actually called it all the family and friends for our wedding vow renewal. So she knew all people were coming for my birthday.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for my birthday. I actually had to hurry up and get her address the day before, because I had her getting married in some jeans. But we had,
it was very sweet.
Pastor and everybody. It was really nice. I do appreciate all that too. All our friends and family showing up for that.
Yes, thank you.
And you'll be surprised at the outreach and the love that everybody has for you, that wants to be there and want to see you make it. And if you got friends and stuff that don't want to see you make it, you need to get rid of those friends.
Right.
They got to go.
Yep.
So thank God for good friends and family too. I just want to put that out there.
and a praying pastor and a praying church family, praying loved ones, everybody who prayed for us. Thank you for taking the time to put our names in the atmosphere and say a prayer for us at a time we couldn't pray for ourselves. So, thank you for allowing us to share our testimony. We're praying for each individual marriage. We know marriage is tough. I'm just not the sugar coater of, every day is a great day, and I love my husband every day more than I did the last. Every day is not a great day. It doesn't mean that I don't love my husband, but you just have to keep fighting, because your kids, you love them, and then some days you still love them, but it's a difficult day. It doesn't mean that you're going to divorce your kids and make them go away. It's just a difficult day, and you go to sleep and you start all over tomorrow and pray that day is better, and just keep moving forward. So with the last slide I would like to share is just something. I was searching through the internet and I saw no one is ever too broken. No one is ever too broken, too scarred, or too far gone to create change. Never stop fighting and never lose the faith. So God bless each couple that has listened to us share our testimony, and we pray the mercies of God on your marriage, and that you use this as a way to forgive each other for whatever things that you think may have gone wrong, or asking God how you wish that this testimony didn't happen for you. Just thank God for your spouse and just keep moving forward. Just keep going forward in the Lord. Thank you, and we hope that this has blessed you. If you feel led to donate to the marriage ministry,
yes, twcmarriageretreat.com, or you can go to Solomon's Temple, Detroit, Michigan.
stcdetroit.com. Right. So Solomon's Temple in Detroit, or True Way Church in Nashville. We hope to see you at the next marriage retreat when COVID is gone, and we thank God for you, and God bless you.